And welcome back to Politics Unplugged, and we are sticking with education. This time, it's Arizona's public K-12 system. Now, earlier this year, lawmakers expanded the voucher program, letting parents enroll their kids in private or religious schools to get state money to help cover the cost of tuition. Well, that sparked a referendum drive. The program is now on hold, awaiting a decision by the voters next year. That has also sparked lawsuits to stop the referendum. And joining us now is Don Penich-Thacker with Save Our Schools, which backed the referendum, and Carlos Alfar with the Libre Initiative, which opposed sending this to the voters. Thank you very much for being here today. And again, lawmakers expanded the voucher program. They put a cap on it, 30,000 kids at most, which means they can take 90% to 100% of school funding and take that to a school of their choice. Why would you be opposed to that?
Well, because Arizona's public schools are starving already. We have one of the lowest invested in public education systems in the nation. We have the lowest paid teachers in the nation. We have an unprecedented teacher shortage. So all of the people who came together to oppose this voucher expansion said, while we are struggling to fund the schools that most families are using, let's not design more ways to take money out of those schools.
Your response?
There is a very necessary conversation that needs to happen in terms of funding our schools, whether it's enough or too little. This conversation about ESAs, though, it's about how we use the resources that we have today. Currently, we have students that are special needs, that are low-income minority students that are taking advantage of these ESAs and using them for a better education. And that's what educational freedom is all about, letting parents choose for their kid what the better education is.
You've heard all the stories. You've seen the stories about teacher shortages. You've seen low test scores and whatnot, all the funding that has been cut. Every dollar that goes with these kids in this program gets taken out of the public school systems and therefore starves them even more cash. How is that going to help anybody?
Well, we believe that not every kid is right for an ESA, just like not every kid is right with a charter school or private school. We support all options. An ESA right now is helping kids that are in D and F rated schools. So these are kids that are going to schools and maybe are stuck in a failing school. And ESA grants them that opportunity to get out of that. As far as the schools remaining, there's a ton of evidence. In fact, 31 empirical studies showing the positive benefits of choice on district schools. So this is, in other words, this is also helping those district schools by upping their game.
And again, a lot of parents are going to see, they hear this, they love the idea of choice. I mean, what is wrong with that? If they can find a school that meets the needs of their child better than the public school that they're looking at right now. And plus, this program is only capped at most 30,000, and by all appearances right now, they're far below the number of students that would be eligible even right now. So it doesn't even look like they may even reach that 30,000.
Yeah, so one thing that's important to remember is that there is already an existing voucher program here in Arizona. That program is almost 7 years old, and it's just over half full. So Save Our Schools Arizona has no problem with choice. Arizona is a leader in school choice. But we're expanding a program that's not even full, and this expansion, by many accounts, is going to endanger the very students that the original vouchers were meant for, students with disabilities, students in failing schools. So I think there's a fundamental question, which is, should we deal with education by taking a few students out of a few failing schools, or should we invest in all of our schools so that we don't even have failing schools in Arizona?
Have you addressed that point?
Oh, definitely. We're seeing parents right now, hundreds of parents, that because of this ballot initiative now are in pause. When they were promised a better education for their kid, now they have to go back to those schools that they didn't think was good enough because of this expansion, because of this referendum.
Well,
so
that's something I would like to clarify, because
Sure.
this law was put on pause before it was allowed to get started. So there are actually no families who had been applying and granted a new ESA. All of the families that are currently on vouchers, special needs, failing schools, they're continuing as usual. This referendum was against the new program, which did not kick in, and therefore there should be no families who thought they were going to get something that they didn't even apply for yet.
I would love to invite you to one of our group meetings with Padres Unidos or Parents United. These are hundreds of parents that are low-income minority families that saw the ESA expansion, specifically the expansion as an opportunity to take their kid out of the school that they didn't like. There's more things than just a failing F or D designation on the school. There could be bullying issues. There could be a C school, and that's not good enough for your kid. The story of Destiny Garcia comes to mind.
I think that one thing I'd like, before we get into kind of the personal, this student, that student, is take it back again. No Arizona student should have to be in a school that's struggling. No Arizona student should have to be in a school that can't meet their needs. So I think that the question that we want to put to voters is, should we try to fix all the schools for all the kids, or should we take funds away from them to help one or two or this neighborhood or that? And ultimately, one thing that's important to remember is this is just putting it on the ballot. So if we want to talk about choice, let's give voters the choice. That's the fundamental thing that I don't understand about all the opposition to the referendum. Why can't the voters just decide? It'll be a yes or no vote. Yeah, we want vouchers or no. Let's keep the money in the public schools.
Real quick, if you could give us a little bit of background on where the lawsuits are on this and challenging this referendum.
And I don't think anybody's against petitioning government and getting signatures for a ballot initiative. We want to make sure that it's legitimate, and mostly because it is affecting families that could be going to better schools.
So you don't think it's legitimate, the number of signatures?
We want to make sure that it is and that it gets verified.
So, but it's already been checked by the city, the county recorders. It looks like they've got a high validity rate there. That's still not good enough.
No, we believe that there are things that should be looked at the court, and it's, again, we're not against the ballot initiative or the petition process. It's really about verifying that this is legitimate, because families are going to be off of a better education. They're not going to get that opportunity. I'll be the first one to say Arizona education has got a long way to go, but it is going to take a variety of options. It's going to take charter schools, private schools, tax credits, and ESAs to get there. Not every kid is right for an ESA, but for those kids that are, we shouldn't be putting restrictions, we shouldn't be putting regulation.
I totally agree that not every student is right for an ESA, which is why this universal ESA expansion is kind of a problem. You know, the county recorders, the Secretary of State have all come back and said not only are these voter signatures valid, but they're valid at unprecedented rates. And I think that if we, trust our state leaders to make these kind of calls to do their job well, then the voters should be able to have this conversation for the next 14 months, and then in November of 2018, we'll decide what we want for our state, what we want for our schools, and whether we want to be a state that supports 95% of Arizona's students or the 5% that are choosing vouchers.
Yeah, it just seems very interesting to me that why can't we do it all? Why can't we? Because that was the same argument used against charter schools, that it was going to take away from public. And while we might be at the bottom of the list with funding or financial stuff, when it comes to academic gains, Arizona students have actually been leading the nation for the last 6 years, actually going on 7 years.
Yeah, and that's primarily due to public schools.
Public schools are involved, but we have a variety of choice. Like you said, Arizona leads the country in options, and this is one of the reasons why we've seen such academic gains. We've got to continue investing in these.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for this. Having a great conversation. I'm sure we'll be continuing having a lot more of this here in the near future. But we do have more coming up here on Politics Unplugged, and just ahead, the president seems to be